Very good evening, all of you. So I hope you enjoyed the holidays. So let's start now. All well? बिल्कुल ठीक है अभी. ठीक है. आंसर रेगुलर लिखना है अभी. ठीक है. Okay. So as we have discussed in the last session, that there are few perspectives in anthropology that will help us to understand or make sense of the world, or you can say the culture and the society, right? So basically through these theories, or you can say the paradigms, or you may say approaches, we are trying to better understand or you may say we are trying to make sense of the socio-cultural reality. Socio-cultural reality. Okay? We are trying to better understand or make sense that what is society, what is culture, what is happening to our society, what is happening to the culture, how culture came into existence, how it developed, how it changes, how various components of the culture function, what is their utility, if at all there is. So we are just trying to understand using these perspectives, right? And naturally these perspectives are given by some philosophers, or you can say scholars, or you may say anthropologists, right? These emerged out of either their own experiences into the native world, when I say into the native world, that means their own field work. They went to the field, they stayed with the people, they learnt about their way of life, right? It may emerge either through reading others' work, right? Or it may come from reading others' work. The others' work may be the work of, say, ethnographers, colonial administrators, and maybe some voyagers. You understand? I believe you understood what I am trying to say. This is ethnographic approach. The second one may be the ethnological approach. In the last session we had discussed two terms, ethnology and ethnography. Ethnology is the descriptive study of one culture, right? So when the administrator, or anthropologists went into the field, they had some experiences. On the basis of that, they may have developed a perspective, a theory, or they may have read others' works, right? That can be another way. Now, these anthropologists may be, you can say, criticizing others when they went to the field or they were reading some material. So they may be reacting against some existing idea or theory. They may be reacting, they may be defeating an idea that is already prevalent in the public knowledge, that no, this is not true, because I have seen in the field that what you are saying is not true. So they may be reacting against some idea or theory or perspective. And naturally, when they were on the field, all of us are the products of our own cultural learnings. That include our parental teaching, that include our teachers have taught something, our friends have taught, and our individual experiences that we have experienced, right? So maybe these were inspired by some, isn't it? They may be reacting against some, and they may be inspired by some idea, some philosopher, or anything. Like we had discussed in the last session, if you remember it correctly, so the classical evolutionism is a product of combination of many things, isn't it? So it is inspired from many ideas, right? Now, so these are, you can say, the theories or the thoughts, anthropological perspectives. Our purpose is to better understand the social and cultural reality, to make sense what is happening, how is happening, right? What will happen. So prediction की तरफ भी जाने की कोशिश करते हैं, right? But we may not be able to completely predict any social phenomena or what would be the outcome in the given situation, but we try to make sense of it, right? That is what is our theories. Now in this course, the first theory is our classical evolutionism. Right. So let us break this word up. Classical means old, or you may say earliest. Evolutionism is an idea that is derived from evolution, right? Ism means philosophy, ideology, right? So it's an idea that describes evolution. So it is an old idea describes evolution, right? It is the oldest school of anthropology that describes evolution. Now we have the term evolution, right? So evolution can be simply defined as a process of change. It is a process of change from simple to complex, right? From homogeneous to heterogeneous, right? From uncertainty to certainty, right? From uncertainty to certainty. Okay, if you take the definition of evolution given by Herbert Spencer, so Herbert Spencer was a British polymath, a British philosopher, a sociologist, a biologist, and a simple philosopher. So Herbert Spencer, in his book Principles of Sociology, right, we have borrowed these terms from this definition, but strictly if you want to talk about his definition, so he defined evolution as the process of change from indefinite incoherent homogeneity to definite coherent heterogeneity. Okay, indefinite incoherent homogeneity to definite coherent heterogeneity through differentiation and integration. Differentiation and integration. Okay. Done? So we have understood what is evolution, what is classical evolution. Okay, classical evolutionism. Now, basically classical evolutionism is an idea, right? It is the earliest idea in anthropology that tries to explain the change in culture, कि culture में बदलाव कैसे आया, कैसे culture change हुआ, right? That is what this school of thought tries to help us to make sense, right? Now, there is a scholar called Julian Stewart, an American neo-evolutionist. I believe you understand if we are talking about classical evolution, so neo मतलब नया evolution, बाद में कभी किया होगा इसने, right? So Julian Stewart classified the evolutionary approach. Evolutionary approach means the approaches that studies evolution. They classified evolutionary approaches into three schools. Right? Three schools or three sub-schools you may say. These are first one is unilineal evolution. Unilineal evolution. Second is universal evolution. And third is multilineal evolution. Unilineal, universal and multilineal evolution. Right? Unilineal simply means evolution in one line. Or one direction. Right? Basically, when he was talking about unilineal evolution, he was hinting towards the classical evolution. He was hinting towards classical evolutionism. Right? So another name of classical evolutionism will be unilineal evolutionism. Clear? Another name of classical evolutionism will be unilineal evolutionism. Second one is universal evolution. What is universal evolution? That means everywhere evolution is basically change. That means the simple to complex. Right? It is talking about the simplicity to complexity. ठीक है? So everywhere evolution is taking place from simple to complex. Third is multilineal. That means at different places there can be different lines of evolution. There are not a single line, rather multiple lines multiple directions or multiple ways in which evolution may occur. Right? Simply change, right, from simple to complex form. Okay. Okay. These are the three sub schools he suggested, and we will be dealing here. Okay. Before we start this school, let us talk a little bit more, since we are dealing with classical evolution. Or you may say unilineal evolution. We will be dealing with certain terms, so you must be familiar with those terms, right? One term we had discussed in the last session, that was comparative method. I believe you know about that. I believe all of you are aware of this method. Somewhere we will be dealing with the term positivism. Anyone have doubt with regard to this term, please do ask. Positivism, simply we are talking about some universal statements, some facts, cause and effect relationships. Right? Cause and effect relationship. Cause and effect relationship simply means if I drop this pencil, it will fall. Right? There is a cause behind this fall. Why it is falling down? Because of gravitation. So effect is that this pencil is falling, and cause is simply gravity, right? So if we apply the similar idea on society, that is social positivism. We'll be dealing with the terms like psychic unity. Yes, dear, what is psychic unity? Okay, that means we all have similar mental framework. All humans have similar kind of mental operations in their brain. That simply means, right? Mental operations of the entire humanity work in a similar way. That means if you are put in a situation, your response will be similar as other humans will have reacted to that particular situation, right? Suppose say you are living in forest, so naturally you will depend on hunting and gathering. So wherever there is forest, people are hunter and gatherers, right? Wherever there are forests, people are hunter and gatherers. Wherever there are riverine areas, oceans, people subsist on fishes. That means similar situation, similar reaction, right? That is what psychic unity, that means same mental operations, right? Then we will be dealing with the terms like survivals. These terms, since I will be using later, so I'm just brushing these up. Survivals. What are survivals? Okay, practices of past, right? Practices of past which were relevant in past but are still present in the present stage of our life by the force of habit, but they have lost their relevance, right? Say for example, when you sneeze, you say God bless you. When you sneeze, you simply say God bless you. In present times, there is no relevance of it. But in past, there was a relevance because it was like that with the sneeze, your soul was trying to escape. So people say, God bless you, कि वापस आ जा. अभी थोड़े दिन और जीना है. That is what the right. You shake hands. In past, shaking hand was an indication that I am without arms. I don't carry any weapon. Right now, naturally, we can see you are not have such a you don't have such elaborate clothing also. राइट और यहाँ पे अगर आपने कोई नर्व एजेंट लगा के लाए हो तो फिर तो कुछ नहीं हो सकता. राइट हुआ था ना एक जो नॉर्थ कोरिया वाले डिक्टेटर ने किसी को मरवा दिया था. राइट somebody was there, someone was passing on the airport and just someone touch और गया. Okay, so basically that was the indicator of that. Similarly, the the suit in men, पीछे एक कट होता है, उसका आज कोई यूटिलिटी नहीं है. इन पास्ट दैट हैज ए यूटिलिटी बिकॉज यू हैव टू क्लाइंब दी हॉर्स. वाइल क्लाइंबिंग हॉर्स, सो यू नीड अ फ्लेक्सिबल सूट, अदरवाइज हर बार एक ही बार बैठ पाते घोड़े पे. राइट सो दैट इज द यूटिलिटी. सो दीज आर सर्वाइवल्स ऑफ द पास्ट. द सर्वाइवल्स कैन बी सम हैबिट्स, they can be material things, right? They can be non-material things. Say for example, one survival, I can give the example, at the time of marriage in North India, if anyone have attended the marriage, so there is a congregation of around 500 to 600 or maybe thousands of men from, mainly men from the side of the groom, and they go at the bride's house to collect that single women. Right, so why एक अबला नारी को लेने के लिए इतनी सारा बारात? Why there are so many people just to collect one woman? Because in past, maybe in past, I'm just we are conjecturing, we are just assuming that in past maybe there was the practice of capture of women, right? And present day, it is just a survival of the past. We are just doing that by the force of habit, right? That is the survival, right? Okay, then we will be talking about few terms like creationism. सब कुछ गॉड ने बनाया है, सब भगवान ने बनाया है, that is creationism, right? So these are few terms. If something will come, so I will explain it there itself, right? Okay, now let's move on to what classical evolutionism says, right? So we started like, what is classical evolutionism, right? What is the definition of evolution, and how Julian Stewart classified evolution into 3 subschools. So now we are starting classical evolution or unilineal evolution. Now, classical evolutionism or unilineal evolutionism simply says that societies and cultures everywhere evolve in a unilineal fashion in fixed stages of culture, that is savage to barbaric to civilized. Savage to barbaric to civilized, or you may make a diagram to show savage to barbaric to civilized. I believe this is clear what they are trying to say. Societies and cultures evolve in a unilineal fashion in a fixed stages of culture. Now, when we are using the word everywhere, and the second thing is unilineal, these are the two founding things. Okay? Societies and cultures evolve in unilineal sequence. तो ये तो unilinealism हो गया. Second, everywhere, that means everywhere there is parallel evolution. Savage to barbaric to civilized, सब जगह ऐसा ही होगा. Right? Why it is like this? Because there exists psychic unity of humankind. Right? That is why there is parallel evolution. Clear? Why there is parallel evolution? Because there is psychic unity of humankind. That is why everywhere societies evolve in the similar manner. This school of thought have three sub-schools. Three sub-schools. Yes, dear. What are the sub-schools? Okay. So, first is British. Second is American. And third is German. Sometime also called as Austro-German. Sometime also called as Continental. Okay? Sometime known as Austro-German, sometime also known as Continental School. That means Continental Europe, right? Okay. The main scholars of this British sub-school were E.B. Tylor, Edward Burnett Tylor. Okay. Second is James Fraser. Third, now these two are the one that are mentioned in our syllabus. The rest are minor importance, right? So I will be writing them. R. Marett, right? We have John McLennan. We have Henry Maine, right? We have Henry Maine, John McLennan, and R. Marett. Okay. American is represented by one Lewis Henry Morgan. Lewis Henry Morgan. And German school have two. One is Adolf Bastian and J. Bachofen. Adolf Bastian and J. Bachofen. Clear? So these are the sub-schools, or you may simply write that the classical evolutionism is represented by Tylor, Fraser, Morgan, and some others, etc. Right? That's your choice. Okay? Done? Now, so first you have written the definition part. This is the definition part of classical evolutionism. Second, you have written the sub-schools, or you may write a one paragraph instead of this graphic. That's your choice, right? That this classical evolutionism is represented by, ये तीन नाम जरूर आए, because these three are mentioned in your syllabus, right? So it is represented by these scholars. That's your choice, depending on what is the size of the question. You may choose either this graph to show, or you may just write one line or two lines that the main proponents of this school include Tyler, Fraser, Morgan, etc. ठीक है, एक आध नाम याद आ जाए तो well and good, ना आए तो कोई बात नहीं, ठीक है, because these are the ones who are mentioned in your syllabus, these three scholars, right? Now, you put a heading, reaction against. See, any idea will naturally either counter any idea, existing idea, or support some pre-existing ideas, right? So this idea of classical evolutionism must be reacting against some pre-existing thought. कोई तो pre-existing thought रहा होगा when it emerged. 19th century, right? Because 1859 was the year when Darwin published his book, and just 15-20 years later, in 1871, we had a very famous book published by Tyler, that was Primitive Culture, and that book is the most phenomenal book, right? In 1877, there was another book published by L.H. Morgan, Ancient Society. These are the two monumental works that basically give, you can say, shape to the anthropological thinking, right? First and foremost. Okay? So it was a reaction against two very prominent ideas. One was the idea of creationism, right? Which says that God created society and culture. God created society and culture. Whatever we are, right? Howsoever condition we are living in, it is the God's gift to all of us. Second idea was the idea of degeneration. Degenerationism simply means that we did not progress, rather we degenerated from a stage to a lower stage, right? So what it says, that societies and cultures degenerated, right, from advanced stage. Many people supported this idea, like Comte de Maistre, and many others, like even Kant says, Immanuel Kant, you might have studied that in ethics somewhere, right? So those who have corrupt thought, they have degenerated. Those who lived outside the civilization, they have degenerated, right? So degeneration, okay? Done? Now, the Comte de Maistre, a French scholar, was one of the prominent scholar who hold the idea that societies have degenerated from an advanced stage. नीचे आ गए लोग. Instead of evolving, they have degenerated, right? This school was inspired from हर स्कूल का कोई इन्फ्लुएंस होता है, राइट? सो द आइडिया कहाँ से आया? द आइडिया ऑफ इवोल्यूशन. इट, हाँ, नो, इट वॉज इन्फ्लुएंस्ड फ्रॉम, किसके इन्फ्लुएंस थे? कौन स्कॉलर था जिससे इन्फ्लुएंस हुआ? कौन से आइडियाज थे जिनसे इन्फ्लुएंस हुए, राइट? Okay, so before Darwin also, because Darwin was the latest one, right? So it was influenced from Enlightenment thinkers. Such as, हाँ, मोंटेस्क्यू भी था और कॉम्ट वगैरह भी थे, सेंट साइमन कॉम्ट. No, no, if you just want to write एनलाइटनमेंट थिंकर्स में सिम मोंटेस्क्यू, तो हम सेंट साइमन कॉम्ट को नीचे लाके दूसरा हेडिंग बना देंगे, पॉजिटिविज्म, राइट? दैट्स योर चॉइस. द आइडिया ऑफ positivism, right? See, you must understand that there is a flexibility the way you are going to write. There is a flexibility. रट्टा मारने की कोशिश मत करो, अपने आप याद हो जाएगा, right? Because this is the very fundamental. Theories तो आपको वैसे भी memorize होनी चाहिए, right? Don't worry, I will make sure that you won't forget. Then what else? See, enlightenment thinkers are there, positivism is there. What else? What are the other ideas that shaped their ideas? Darwinism and social Darwinism. Okay, लो आपका भी लिख देते हैं. Although I was writing something else before that, but ठीक है, you forced me to write. No, just लिखते जाओ, मैं बताता हूँ, ठीक है? इतना भी फोर्स मत करो. हाँ, okay. Darwinism, social Darwinism. Then colonial administrators and their writings, voyagers and their writings. ठीक है. See, Bastian. Adolf Bastian was a discoverer, right? He inherited a ship company from his father. He was a physician, although, but lifetime वो voyages में ही रहा, right? He died outside home because he participated in 9 long world voyages. Adolf Bastian was a German, right? And 9 voyages में he discovered so many lands, he collected data about so many kinds of people, right? And he gave an idea of elementary ideas. Elementary ideas are the ideas that are common to the entire humanity, right? Adolf Bastian, जो मैंने पहले लिखा है आपका, कहाँ पे लिखा था, ये रहा. This person, Adolf Bastian, it was a voyager, or you can say it's a discoverer, right? And this discoverer traveled throughout the world in his 9 long voyages. Voyage means घूम रहा था, right? And he documented a vast variety of social, cultural, archaeological data about the cultures and the people. ठीक है? And that idea, among those datas, he gave a principle, right? Simple principle, that the principle of elementary ideas. Elementary ideas are the ideas which are common to the entire humanity. अभी नहीं लिखना है, सिर्फ मैं आपको बता रहा हूं, समझा रहा हूं. Elementary ideas. He also contrasted this concept of elementary ideas with folk ideas. Folk ideas are limited to a particular people, right? So elementary ideas and folk ideas. You understand the difference between the two? एक सिर्फ इंडिया वालों के आइडिया, या सिर्फ इंडिया में एक रिलीजन वालों के आइडियाज, या फिर एक रिलीजन में भी एक कास्ट वालों के आइडियाज. That becomes the folk idea. Elementary ideas are those ideas which are common to the entire humankind, irrespective of the place, irrespective of the nationality, irrespective of the religion or anything. Don't you think this concept is the same as psychic unity? That is what. Okay, so it was influenced from discoveries and writings of colonial administrators. The scholar, that is Henry Maine, we have written earlier. Henry Maine was a British colonial administrator. He even came to India, taught at Calcutta University, became the vice chancellor of Calcutta University. He wrote a very famous book, Ancient Law, where he talked about his evolutionary ideas. There are many other scholars, British administrator turned scholars, who studied Indian society in detail, about its race, about its caste, religion, etc., etc., and those works basically reached the libraries, right? That was accessed by the scholars. Clear? Influences. Now, after that, we'll talk about that what these scholars are trying to say. Features. Salient features of classical evolutionism. What are the main features of classical evolutionism? So first thing, evolution is a gradual process of change. The first point is evolution is a gradual process of change from simple to complex, from homogeneity to heterogeneity, uncertainty to certainty. Second, evolution is a gradual process of change from simple to complex, homogeneity to heterogeneity, uncertainty to certainty. Second point, evolution is ceaseless and ubiquitous. Ceaseless means it is happening without any timeline, right? Hota rahega, nirantar, right? Ubiquitous, everywhere, right? It is ceaseless and ubiquitous. ठीक है? Third, evolution takes place in unilineal sequence. Unilineal sequence or unilineal fashion. How it is taking place? You may simply say savage to barbaric to civilized. Fourth, there exists psychic unity of the humankind. There exists the psychic unity of the humankind. There exists the psychic unity of the humankind, that is, all humans have similar mental framework. All humans have similar mental framework. Next, there is parallel evolution of culture and society. See, whatever we had discussed, मैं simply उन्हीं बातों को बार बार अलग अलग पॉइंट्स में लिखवा रहा हूँ, कुछ नया नहीं कर रहा हूँ मैं, right? What I am saying that it is gradual process of change. It is ceaseless and ubiquitous. Unilinealism, psychic unity and parallel evolution. That means everywhere वाला line मैंने यहाँ लिख दिया, right? हम simply चीजों को बढ़ा चढ़ा के लिख रहे हैं, so that we have number of points. Suppose one or two you miss out, तो भी आपका पूरा हो जाए, ठीक है? Okay. Next, once you are saying that it is now, यहाँ पे आप बोलते हो ceaseless है, right? अभी आप बोलोगे that civilization is the epitome of development. So आप अपनी बातों को काउंटर कर दोगे, ये क्रिटिसिज्म में ले लेंगे बाद में हम, ठीक है? So classical evolutionists assumed that civilization is the epitome of development or progress. Epitome of development or progress. What do we mean? Highest stage of development or progress. Right? Okay. Now we know that they talk about evolution. How we know, how we can say evolution हुआ है? Right? So next point, the prevalence of cultural survivals in the present day cultures demonstrate evolution. You understand by this term? The prevalence of cultural survivals in present day cultures demonstrate evolution. कि evolution हुआ है, because there are survivals in the present day cultures, and these survivals are nothing but archaeological records, kind of archaeological records. I don't write the word archaeological record here, but it's a kind of archaeological record for us, right? We shake hand, we say God bless you, we still use the cut in the suit, that shows कि पहले ऐसा होता होगा, right? Okay. Now every school of thought basically have some methods to prove his point. Naturally, these scholars also must have had some methods. So what are the methods used by these? what method was used by classical evolutionists. Sometime I may use the word methodology. Sometime I may use the word tools and methods. That means we are referring to the same thing. ठीक है, आप कोई भी एक टर्म चूज कर सकते हो later on. Number 1, they used comparative method, right? What is comparative method? Comparison of cultures in order to arrive at a generalization. Why you compare? Comparison का purpose होगा ना. Why you compare cultures? Say you have seen 3 cultures or 4 cultures. Say this is culture 1, say this is culture 2, this is culture 3, this is culture 4. See, you have to connect with the last class. कल जो फ्राइडे को किया था हमने लास्ट, उस क्लास में मैंने कुछ बातें बताई थी. सो दिस इज डायरेक्टली रिलेटेड टू दैट. द पर्पस ऑफ कंपैरिजन इज टू डेवलप जनरलाइजेशंस, राइट? थ्रू से देयर इज मैरिज फाउंड इन दिस, राइट? देयर इज ऑल्सो मैरिज इन दिस, हियर ऑल्सो दिस. विल से दैट मैरिज इज अ यूनिवर्सल, it is found in all cultures. When we say marriage is a universal, this is a universalization. This is a generalization. This is a general statement. That is a theory that ये हर culture में मिलती है, right? So through comparative method, they have developed that evolution is taking place everywhere. By comparing different cultures, what they say that evolution is taking place everywhere, right? Second, they used the positivistic approach. Naturally, they used the positivism. The cause and effect relationship, right? They say that survivals suggest evolution, right? Survivals, if there are survivals, they suggest evolution. Right? Say psychic unity. They use this as a tool that why it is happening everywhere, right? They use psychic unity to prove this ubiquitousness in unilineal sequences. Ubiquitous means everywhere, and in unilineal sequences. Why it is happening? Because there exists psychic unity of the humankind. Clear? So these are, you can say, methods. They also relied on secondary data. Secondary data, that means the data that was collected by others, right? If I collect the data by myself through my own senses, that is my primary data. Secondary data is data collected by others but used by me. Say census data, if I am using, that is a secondary data for me, right? If I am reading a book that is written by Malinowski and I am trying to draw some generalizations through that work, that is the use of secondary data, right? Okay. The use of secondary data, and they also relied on conjecture, or you may say assumptions. Wherever the data was short, so they relied on conjecture or certain assumptions. Done? Okay. Conjecture means assumption. ऐसा हुआ होगा, शायद ऐसा हुआ होगा. That is conjecture. Okay? Done? Now, what are the accomplishments? Every school must have made some contribution towards the anthropology, right? Okay, so accomplishments. First, see, it was the first school of thought. That means anthropology as a discipline emerged after this school of thought, right? So, systematization of anthropology as a discipline. Okay, before that anthropology was not at all systematic, right? There was no theory of its own. So from here anthropology became a systematic discipline. Anthropology became a systematic discipline with the classical evolutionism. Second, see, we are saying that evolution is happening everywhere. Let me write it here. Don't write, you don't write. Do you see any similarity between the two statements? Evolution is taking place everywhere, and gravity works on all objects everywhere. Do you see any similarity between the two? That means the law of gravity works everywhere, right? And evolution is happening everywhere. This is the natural sciences. And these are the social sciences, right? Or you may simply say anthropology. That is a debate for a different day whether anthropology is a natural or social science, but as of now, say let's take it that way. So एंथ्रोपोलॉजी को सेम पेडेस्टल पे लाके खड़ा कर दिया एज ऑफ नेचुरल साइंसेस, right? Classical evolutionism placed anthropology on the same pedestal as the natural sciences. So can we write this? Placed anthropology on the same pedestal as the natural sciences, right? Understood? Now we started studying the society and cultural phenomena in the similar way as the natural scientists are studying the natural phenomena. Right? Anthropologists started studying the social phenomena in a similar manner as the natural scientists are studying the natural phenomena. I believe that make it quite clear. Okay, these are some accomplishments. You will learn little bit more with time, right? So जैसे जैसे हम scholars में enter करेंगे. Now every school is criticized. Okay. First, criticism was led by Papa Boas, Franz Boas. Franz Boas was an German American anthropologist and he criticized classical evolutionists on many grounds. Right? What were those grounds? Number one. First and foremost, he criticized them for the use of secondary data. Use of secondary data. Because he believed anthropologists should go to the field and collect primary data. In the last session we had discussed fieldwork method, right? So he says secondary data का use ठीक नहीं है. Second, he criticized the classical evolutionists for using comparative method. Right? He criticized them for using comparative method. Why he criticized that? Right? So let me explain, then you will write here. Let me explain it first. See, why he criticized them for comparative method? It says that by comparing various cultures, we can discover theories, or you may say generalizations. Right, that was the approach of evolutionists. Franz Boas he gave the principle of cultural relativism. Franz Boas gave the principle of cultural relativism. What does cultural relativism says? I believe I had told you yesterday a little bit simply that this principle says that every culture is unique. Right? If every culture is unique, it had to be understood in its own way. It had to be understood in its own unique way, right? That means it cannot be compared or judged from a reference point of other culture. अंडरस्टूड? इसका मतलब ये है, सपोज एक कल्चर का कोई एक रेफरेंस पॉइंट लेके हम दूसरे कल्चर को जज नहीं कर सकते हैं. दैट मीन्स सपोज I eat a particular type of food and I've started judging others on the basis of that, that is not valid. That is totally unacceptable. Right? Because every culture is unique and it has to be seen through its own lens, its own eyes, its own way of thinking, rather than what I think, what I believe. Clear? So, because he believed in this idea of cultural relativism, so he rejected this comparative method. Right? समझ गए? So, he criticized them for using comparative method because every culture had to be understood in its own unique way. Right? Next, he criticized them for conjecture. Conjecture. Conjecture, that means assumption. Right? Why he, अगर मैं assume करके चलूं, my assumption can be biased. Again, let's go back to here. If I start with an assumption, will I ever be able to understand your way of life? If I am starting with the assumption that सभी जगह लोग ऐसा खाना खाते होंगे, and if I come across the other way of life somewhere, so my assumption will counter that, so I will never be able to understand the truth of that culture. Right? So, again, he says that anthropologists should rely on unbiased primary data collected through intense field work. Collected through intense field work. Clear? Anthropologists should rely on unbiased primary data collected through intense field work. That is what he argued. Right? He also criticized them for being ethnocentric. कुछ नहीं छोड़ा उसने, उठा के पटक दिया. Right? He criticized them for being ethnocentric. Ethnocentric means they saw that civilization is the epitome of development. Right? And if you say that something is highly developed, that means others are not as developed as this thing is. So he criticized them for being ethnocentric when they say civilization is the epitome of development. So this thing he did not like. Right? He, along with the diffuseness second point. And diffuseness, I believe you remember I used the second theory was diffusionism, right? Franz Boas and diffuseness criticized evolutionists. When I am using evolutionists singly also I am referring to these, right? Evolutionists for ignoring diffusion as an important process, responsible for socio-cultural change. Responsible for socio-cultural change. Right. Next, criticism. Right. The criticism was पहले समझ लो फिर लिखना, right? See, what evolutionists say that early society was savage and savage evolved into barbaric and barbaric evolved into civilization. Okay. Simply you can say hunter gatherer, right? Pastoralists and civilized agriculture, right? That is what they are trying to say. Okay, now they say that the early society there was no concept of marriage. Consanguineous marriage was there, right? Consanguineous marriages were there, right? Polygamous marriages were there. And monogamous marriages were there. So what they say that monogamy is a trait of civilization. Monogamy is a trait of civilization. ठीक है? That is what they say. So उन्होंने क्या बोला? Monogamy is found in civilization, right? But what happened? There is a scholar called Edward Westermarck. Right? He studied many societies and wrote about them in his book, The History of Human Marriage. The History of Human Marriage. In this book, he argued that monogamy is also found in many simple societies, right? Right? It is found in many simple societies. That means the societies which are in savage stage according to evolutionists. Okay? So if he is saying so that monogamy is found in the simple society, it is basically disagreeing with their thought. And he is talking on the ground. He went to the ground and then he is talking. The ground means field में जाके देखा इसने खुद. Similarly, there is another scholar, R.C. Brown. Radcliffe Brown is a British scholar, right? R.C. Brown came to India to study ongees in Andaman and Nicobar, right? And after studying them, he found that ongees practice monogamy despite of the fact that they don't belong to civilization, right? So R.C. Brown observed that ongees of Andaman and Nicobar in India practice monogamy. Despite being a technologically simpler society, right? So simply what Brown made an argument that simple society or simpler technology does not mean simpler social organization, right? You understand what he says, that simpler technology, simpler way of living does not mean that the people will follow simpler social organization. That means they don't have any kind of norms, they don't have any kind of reasoning, any rational when they practice anything. Clear? Okay. There is a scholar called Malinowski, Branislav Malinowski. Malinowski, similar to Brown, is a functionalist. Malinowski says Malinowski simply says that survival cannot exist, right? Let us पहले सुन लो क्या कहना चाह रहा हूं. He says that anything that has some function in a culture today, you will observe that, because functionless trait cannot survive. Whatever you see in your culture have some utility, right? What he says, he was a staunch functionalist. Malinowski was a functionalist. It will come on the third number of our theories. Polish born British anthropologist है ये, right? And what he says that functionless trait cannot survive. Functionless trait cannot survive, and survival is a myth created by Professor Tyler. Right? It is a myth created by Professor Tyler. लिख लो, यही क्रिटिसिज्म है. ठीक है? Done? There are many more criticisms, but अभी रुकना पड़ेगा, इससे ज़्यादा ठीक नहीं है, नाराज हो जाएंगे ये हमसे. क्वेश्चन अच्छे आएंगे तो इनमें नंबर अच्छा आएगा, right? Okay. Now these are the criticisms, right? Although because of many other schools of thought like diffusionism, functionalism, structuralism, the evolutionary theory was subdued, but the evolutionary theory was revived. with the efforts of neo-evolutionists such as Gordon Child, Leslie White, Julian Stewart, Sahalins, and Service, etc. Okay, let us look back what we have written. Okay, I have just given you a broader idea. What is a theory look like? What is a theory look like? That is what my purpose was. And in the meanwhile, we have traveled through a theory also. Okay. So any theory that you'll see will naturally have some introductory lines. What is it? You will try to say there. Every theory will always be a reaction against some existing idea. कोई ना कोई आइडिया तो रहा होगा जिसके खिलाफ वो बोल रहे होंगे, या नहीं होगा तो कोई को सपोर्ट करने के लिए, उसको फर्दर सब्सटेंशिएट करने के लिए आएंगे. Right? Say for example, neo-evolutionists were supporting the ideas of evolutionists. Right? So they naturally will be influenced by some ideas. Right? They will be saying some things, so there will be some salient features. Right? And naturally, while saying some ideas that these are the points that we are making, there were on the basis of some methods. Right? So methods होंगे. Okay, when you say methods, so कुछ बोला है तो कुछ तो contribution होगा ना. That means accomplishment, significance, contribution. So significance होगा या फिर accomplishment हो जाएगा. Contribution you may say, right? And naturally कोई भी theory तो theory है ना. So उसके critique तो जरूर होंगे. And there will be conclusion. This is how you must think about any theory. This is the way we are going to think. This is one way a question may be asked. Right? They may give you simply to write open-ended question that write a note on unilinear evolutionism, classical evolutionism, 19th century evolutionists, right? Or 19th century evolutionism. So you just have to think from this perspective. There are 2-3 benefits of looking at this framework. One, the knowledge will be organized in your mind. Right? There are less chances of erosion of knowledge. है ना? Because एक systematic thought है ना, simply ये idea है, उसके against आया है, उससे inspired है, ये बोला गया है. These are the methods on the basis of which I have said this. Right? You may use methods before, but ज़्यादा बाद में ठीक नहीं लगता है. Because points रखने के बाद मैंने इन methods के ऊपर बोला है. Right? And then, what are the accomplishments? Then, what are the critique of this idea? And finally, you may summarize whatever significance were there in the conclusion, or you may simply write that this idea were rejected earlier, but these were revived later on by these scholars. Simply. Understood? Any doubt till now? I think it is very easy. Okay. So, reaction against slide. Reaction against was just 2 points: creationism and degenerationism. Creationism and degenerationism. Okay, now we'll talk about these sub-schools that we had discussed in the very beginning. What are the sub-schools and what was the idea of different scholars? Okay, so let's start with that. Okay. So we have seen already that there are three sub-schools of the classical evolutionism, and first one was British. सी मैं दोबारा आपको याद दिला दूं, हमारा पर्पस एंथ्रो में अगर अच्छा नंबर लाना है तो थ्योरीज आर द बेस फॉर इट. ठीक है, आई विल बी मूविंग वेरी स्लोली स्टडीली, बट बी माइंडफुल. इफ यू डोंट अंडरस्टैंड एनीथिंग प्लीज डू आस्क. कुछ बिल्कुल अटेंड नहीं की थी क्लास तुमने? अच्छा, तो दोबारा सुनो ना और कंसोलिडेट हो जाएगा, है ना? हाँ, जो भी सुना हुआ है तो क्या हो गया, ठीक है. यू मस्ट यू मे सी दैट कि कई बार क्या होता है, कोई आइडिया मिस हो जाता है पहली क्लास में. ठीक है, अगर हमें 320 चाहिए, 320 प्लस चाहिए, तो हमें चीज़ें दिमाग में फिक्स चाहिए, रटी रटाई चाहिए, जाके वॉमिट कर देना है बस. राइट, वही चाहिए हमें. ब्रिटिश स्कूल, सेकेंड स्कूल इज अमेरिकन, and third is German. Right? In British we had the first scholar, that is Tyler. Okay? Tyler, or you simply say Edward Burnett those who haven't listened this will find it interesting, और जिन्होंने 2-3 बार सुना हुआ है उनके लिए थोड़ा बोरिंग रहेगा, so you bear with us, right? हाँ, because what we are going to discuss here, let me take my notes so that I also do not forget any detail of his life, right? Okay, so Tyler, सुन लो पहले what is, then we'll write. Tyler was a British anthropologist. He was Quaker in his belief. His parents were Quaker. Quaker means those who don't believe in church. It's a kind of independent belief, a liberal belief, so kind, right? And at that time, for getting admission in, say, Oxford, Cambridge, they had to sign the 31 or 39 articles of faith. 39 articles of faith. And since he was a Quaker, he did not sign, so he did not get the admission into these universities. So at the very young age, he joined the factory that his father owned, brass factory. He joined that. Right? He worked there relentlessly for 6-7 years, and then he fell sick. Right? He developed the symptoms of tuberculosis. So parents asked him to go on a travel to some warm areas in USA and this Latin American countries. So he went to Latin America for the luxury travel. When he was there, since he belonged to a very wealthy class, पैसे की दिक्कत थी नहीं, so he was traveling somewhere, and in the way where he was traveling, he was sitting in a bus. ऐसा हमारी वाली बस नहीं थी, but whatever kind of bus there was, right? It may be a cart or it may be anything, right? So he was traveling in a cart or a bus, and in the same bus, some person used the term thou, thou. This is the word that was used at that time, was the followers of Quaker. So the person who was using this word was Henry Christie. Henry Christie was an amateur archaeologist who was collecting the archaeological record, archaeological remains from different sites in the world. He was again wealthy person, so उसका काम भी travel करना ही था और collect करना ही था. Right? Since he met him, so Henry Christie was very aged, and this is young dynamic fellow. Right? So Henry Christie at that time was going to oversee the excavation of Mexican caves, Perigordian caves at that time. He asked Tyler to come and accompany me. Right? So Tyler बोला कि वैसे मैं खाली हूँ, चलो चलता हूँ, मैक्सिको चल लेते हैं. So Tyler went along with him. right? There he oversaw the excavation of the caves, and in excavation what he saw that the earlier, right, the earlier remains were having the rudimentary tools, rudimentary technology, and as the layers progress there was refinement in technology. So there come some ideas that there is some changes. Based on his observations of that cave and something, he wrote a book Anahuac और Mexico and Mexicans, past and present, एक book लिख दिया उन्होंने. Later on, he developed the interest in evolution. Right? He researched the data from the universities and all, and then he started writing things. Right? So he wrote researches into the early history of the mankind. Then he wrote primitive culture. Then he wrote a book named Anthropology. Right? And many of the works he wrote. Right? So that is how his ideas started getting, you can say, pace. Okay? Later on, he gave the theory of cultural evolution. ये उनकी जो बुक थी प्रिमिटिव कल्चर 1871, उसमें सारे आइडियाज को सिस्टमैटिकली रख दिया. Right? He talks about the evolution of culture through savage to barbaric to civilization. He talked about the evolution of religion. The evolution of religion, according to him, the earliest form of religion was animism. Animism simply means the belief in spirits, soul. Animism evolved into polytheism. Polytheism evolved into monotheism. That was his idea. Right? He also talked about the evolution of social institutions. How? He says that the early society was matrilineal. And matrilineal society, that means mother's right. Mother's power to, you can say, start the lineage and give you the title. Matrilineal to patrilineal. That was his idea. Right? He was the first one to use statistics. He developed the tools like psychic unity, cultural survival to explain his ideas. Right? So this was general ideas about Tyler. So to write a little bit about Tyler. Edward Burnett Tyler was a British anthropologist. Who do not have any formal training in anthropology. He could not get admission into Oxford or Cambridge because of following Quaker belief. He joined his father's business. At an early age. After few years of working, he developed symptoms of TB, so he was sent to southern USA, लिखा हुआ है, southern USA to recuperate, RECUPERATE, In 1856, while traveling to Havana, he met Henry Christie. Henry Christie and joined him on a 4-month trip to Mexico. Right? His observations, next paragraph में लिखो, his observations about Mexico and the excavations he oversaw were compiled into a book, Anahuac, 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 or Mexico and Mexicans, comma, ancient and modern. राइट? अब ये वाला जो बुक था इन्होंने पहले लिख दिया. अब इसके बाद में क्या हुआ, इनका इंटरेस्ट डेवलप होता चला गया. राइट? ही बिकेम वेरी इंटरेस्टेड इन द वर्क. सो इन 1865, ये 61 में था, 1865 he wrote researches into the early history of mankind, and development of civilization. Researches into the early history of mankind and development of civilization. Here he used his tool of psychic unity dear, psychic unity and parallel evolution. ठीक है, इस बुक में इन्होंने साइकिक यूनिटी और पैरेलल इवोल्यूशन का कॉन्सेप्ट यूज किया. In 1871, he wrote his monumental work, Primitive Culture. That is researches into, कोलोन करके लिखना है, researches into, ये आपको सिर्फ अभी लिखना है. ये जो नीचे वाला जो कोलोन के बाद वाला है ना, बाद में एग्जाम में लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है. अभी क्यों लिखना है? क्योंकि उसमें जो पॉइंटर्स हैं वो आपको हेल्प करेगा टू फर्दर एक्सपेंड योर नॉलेज. राइट? रिसर्चेस इनटू द डेवलपमेंट of mythology, philosophy, religion, language, art and Customs. Right? This is the full name of the book. Researches into the development of mythology, philosophy, religion, language, art and customs. So इन सारे pointers को touch किया उन्होंने. Simply हम ये कहना चाह रहे हैं. Right? This is the most important work of his. So in this book, he gave the theory of religion, he gave the theory of culture, he gave the theory of everything. Right? कुछ नहीं छोड़ा उन्होंने. Right? Okay. In this book, he used the doctrine of survivals. He gave his theory of religion, gave his theory of religion, स्लैश करके लिखो एनिमिज्म, theory of religion और animism, ANIMI, animism, theory of religion or animism. He gave his famous definition of culture also, in the same book. Same year 1871, he was elected as a fellow of Royal Society. Fellow of Royal Society. 71 में same fellow बन गया. 74 he became a member of British Association of Advancement of Sciences. Member of British Association of Advancement of Sciences. British Association of Advancement of Sciences, and started writing on notes and queries. Started writing on notes and queries of anthropology. See, notes and queries are the very important resource on anthropology. बहुत ही important. Many anthropologists are writing even today on this resource. Right? This is a collective resource जिसमें बहुत सारे scholars अपना अपने ideas को publish करते रहते हैं. ठीक है? Notes and queries में यहाँ पे लिखना शुरू कर दिया इन्होंने. Now, after this, in 1875, he was awarded honorary doctorate by Oxford. Honorary doctorate by Oxford. ठीक है? ना एडमिशन नहीं मिला था, अभी ऑनररी डॉक्टरेट आ गया है. राइट? आपने सुना होगा हमारे प्रेसिडेंट का, है ना, कि मैं एयरफोर्स में नहीं जा पाया था एंड देन आई आस्क्ड द चीफ कि मुझे फ्लाई करना है. सो सेम हुआ इनके साथ भी. राइट? ओके. सो इन 1881 he wrote another famous book, Anthropology. An introduction to, colon करके लिखो, an introduction to the study of men, and civilization. In 1883, he became the keeper of University Museum. He became keeper of University Museum, Oxford. In 1884, he became reader in anthropology. Reader in anthropology at Oxford. At Oxford, right? He was the first person. He was the first person to hold a professional chair in anthropology. He was the first person to hold the professional chair in anthropology in 1884. मतलब फर्स्ट टीचर था वो एंथ्रोपोलॉजी का, सिंपली, राइट? सो दिस इज हिज important contribution. He is basically the founder of first school in anthropology, and he was the first teacher in anthropology in a sense, right? Okay. In 1889, he wrote a paper, a method of investigating the development of institutions, where he compared 282 societies. He compared 282 societies ranging from hunting and gathering to civilized, right? He compared, so he was the first person to use statistics also, ठीक है? He compared 282 societies, so he became the first person to use statistics in social sciences. In 1909 he retired. 1912 he was knighted as Sir Edward Burnett Tyler, right? Okay. Now his contributions of Tyler. Number one, evolution of culture. Right? In his book Primitive Culture, he talked about evolution of culture from savage to barbaric to civilized. Right? According to him, this technological progress is accompanied with the increase in happiness quotient. Again, another critique maybe, right? He says the increase in these stages, or you can say technological progress, is leading to happiness quotient के rise में भी. But ऐसा है क्या that the people in simple society are less happy with you than you? मुझे लगता है they are more happy, right? But he misconstrued these things. Second, he talks about the evolution of social institutions, or you may say society. Right? According to him, the early society was matrilineal and matriarchal. Which evolved into patrilineal and patriarchy. Anyone who do not know the difference between lineal and archy, please do ask. Matrilineal and matriarchy. Archy means authority. Lineal means the inheritance, lineage, right? So lineal means inheritance, title, status. Here we are talking about the authority, power किसके हाथ में. ठीक है, इधर पैसा किधर से आ रहा है, पावर किधर से आ रहा है. ठीक है, ऐसे देख लो. Understood? So early society according to him was matrilineal. Why matrilineal? तो एक आइडिया assumption में आ जाता है. Because in early society it was not known who is the father. Because they were promiscuous. Promiscuity means simply anyone can mate with anyone. If there is promiscuity, so father is not known. If father is not known, so mother, but naturally biologically related है, इतने intimately she is giving birth, so she is known. So that is why the early society was matrilineal. Again another assumption, right? How can you say that the early society was normless? Because you are assuming that animals do not have any kind of norms. Other primates do not have any kind of norms. But do you know that gibbons are monogamous, right? So how can you say that there are no norms in the non-human primates? Another assumption. So we can criticize him here also, right? But itna nahi karenge criticism. Next is evolution of religion. Right. What he says that religion evolved from animism to polytheism to monotheism. Right? You can say monotheism is the trait of civilization, right? Animism is the trait of savage people and polytheism is the trait of barbaric people. That was his idea. How religion evolved like this? So let's talk about him, his idea, his theory of religion. He says that the early man was a savage philosopher. ये एक assumption है उसका. He says the early man was a savage philosopher who had some experiences, and from those experiences he draws some conclusions, some deductions, right? So this savage philosopher had some experiences. What kind of experiences, dear? What kind of experiences the early savage philosopher had? तो फिर क्या सुना? Yes, who will tell me? Okay. Dream, death, hallucinations, echo, बोला होगा तो आवाज वापस सुन रही होगी, shadow, maybe birth and all, right? These are few experiences, right? These experiences, this person, this early man who is a philosopher, why is calling the man philosopher? फिलोसोफर कौन होता है? जो अपनी रीजनिंग अप्लाई करता है, जो सोचता है कि क्या क्यों हो रहा होगा, थ्योराइज करने की कोशिश करता है ना, अंडरस्टैंडिंग से जनरलाइजेशंस ड्रॉ करने की कोशिश करता है, वो सैवेज फिलोसोफर, राइट? हु इज अ फिलोसोफर? जो चीजों को जस्टिफाई करना जानता है, फिलोसफी देना जानता है ना, ज्ञानी बनता है बेसिकली. तो अर्ली मैन हैड दिस 1350 सीसी ब्रेन, सो ज्ञानी था वो, राइट? बट वो सैवेज फिलोसोफर क्यों बोल रहे हैं? बिकॉज उनको फिजिक्स, केमिस्ट्री और बायोलॉजी की इतनी नॉलेज नहीं थी. दे वर नॉट अवेयर ऑफ द लॉज ऑफ ग्रेविटेशन, दे वर नॉट अवेयर ऑफ द लॉज ऑफ ऑर्गेनिक इवोल्यूशन, शायद वो इसलिए ये वर्ड यूज कर रहे हैं, राइट? सो ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ these experiences he might have applied his reasoning and derived some conclusions. The conclusions were like that there are three parts of our being. There are three parts of our being. One is the physical body, right? Second, a life force that animates this body. And third is the mirror image of this life force, that is phantom. Right? Physical body, life force and phantom. Phantom is nothing but a mirror image of this life force. I have drawn this mirror just for your understanding, right? So physical body, that means this being, right? And life force that animates the body, that means as long as this life force is within me, I am breathing. The moment the life force left me, right, that is death, right? Second is phantom. Phantom according to this early philosopher, ये बात कर रहा है टाइलरी कि ऐसा सोचा होगा सैवेज फिलोसोफर ने, राइट? टाइलर सेज ये ऐसे सोचता होगा, right? And then he is giving the theory, right? So he says that the early man might have thought that phantom is very powerful, highly mobile, it can go anywhere. In the dream, कभी आप पहाड़ चढ़ रहे हो, कभी कहीं जा रहे हो. That means you see yourself and others phantom, that it is roaming here and there. You understand? Life force that animates you, and there is a mirror image of yours, life force that can go anywhere. It's very powerful, right? Over a period of time, what happened, that the early men have further refined his own ideas, and he might have thought that there are two things. One is the physical body and the other is spirit. Combining these two as together, right? Spirit, right? Now, spirits, according to him, might have been very powerful. right? These spirits can protect their entire tribe. They can give them indications that what might have come, क्या करो क्या ना करो, सब कुछ spirits बता सकती हैं, because spirits are basically from the ancestors. Spirits are that of the ancestors, right? Now, basically क्यों ऐसा लगा होगा? Because whenever you are in danger, who protects you? Your parents. So ancestors are parents of this men, early men. So the ancestors will come in your dream and they will tell tomorrow there will be a flood. Please take your belongings and go to a neighboring hillock. Tomorrow, or you can say in the coming time, there will be less rainfall, move to the another destination. Right? So that is how maybe उसको सपने में ऐसा आता होगा, तो उसने ऐसा सोचा होगा that there is spirit. Now wherever this man is in the trouble, this man started praying the spirits of the ancestors, right? So he might have started praying, right, the souls. This praying the souls may become systematized. This praying become systematized in a kind of worship or cultural rituals, right? That systematized worship of souls may be become animism. ये animism हो गया. Animism was the earliest form of religion, right? This animism was further, you can say, evolved. How it evolved? He says that since the souls were many, ancestral souls were many, and these souls over a period of time took over the place of gods, or they become so systematized, they become, souls become gods, right? So since souls were many, and these many souls took the place of gods, or they became gods. So gods बन गए तो क्या हो गया? Polytheism. Okay. Now what happened over a period of time? Over a period of time, what happens? Technological growth. Some gods were more important and some gods basically fall into the background. If you have a solution for, say, water, you don't need rain god, you don't need rain god. If you have solutions for water, so rain god nowadays is a very less important, except the Delhi flood, right? People started recalling कि आप भी हो, exist करते हो, right? So normally the god that becomes less relevant, so they fall in the background, right? What happens if the other gods merge in the background behind one super powerful god? Monotheism, right? Fall in background behind all powerful god, and that is how monotheism. Right? That is how monotheism. Done? So that is his theory of religion. I believe You understood? What he's trying to say? That savage philosopher, savage philosopher might have had some experiences, and on those experiences he might have applied his own limited reasoning and derived some conclusions. The conclusions were like, no dear, according to him it was animism. According to Max Muller, yes, naturalism. There are different ways. You can say, see, there are many thinkers who say that this is the earliest form of religion. R.R. Merritt, his own student, says no, animism was not the earliest form of religion, it was animatism. There is no agreement what was the earliest form of religion, whether it was polytheism or not. Like Hindu religion says that the polytheism is the earliest form of religion, say. कह सकते हैं. So there is no, you can say, we cannot go back in time and calculate or can see through our own eyes कि ये था. हम सिर्फ assumptions draw कर सकते हैं. कुछ लोगों ने अपनी अपनी अंडरस्टैंडिंग के हिसाब से बोल दिया. ठीक है. So हाँ, what I was saying. हाँ. So according to him, savage philosopher might have applied his limited reasoning, limited rational, and derived certain conclusions. The conclusions like that we have three parts of our being. One is the physical body, second the force, life force that animates this physical body, and third is the mirror image of this life force, right? The life force का जो physical image है, the mirror image है, that is phantom. Phantom is very powerful and highly mobile. It can go here and there, anywhere, wherever it wants, right? So over a period of time, what happens? That men might have applied more reasoning and might have thought that life force and phantom is one and the same, right? Since life force or the phantom both are one, he says that this might have called as spirit or soul, right? And spirits are very powerful, they can go anywhere. ठीक है? And spirits sometimes protected their descendants, sometimes they can say punished them whenever they go wrong, right? So people might have thought that we must pray to our gods and goddesses, we must keep them happy, we must propitiate them whenever we have the occasion, right? So they initially might have started praying, and over a period of time that praying becomes systematized into a worship. Some you can say rituals they might have started practicing, right? Those ritual practice or the worship over a period of time becomes animism. Animism, that is how he says, is the earliest form of religion. This animism become polytheism. How? Because souls were too many and the souls have taken the place of the gods, more systematic gods with a unique power, right, and a unique role in the social life. So this polytheism over a period of time with the growth in technology might have become monotheism, because some gods become more important and others just merged in the background. And एक टाइम आया होगा जब एक ही गॉड बचा होगा और बाकी सब उसके पीछे आ गए होंगे. That becomes monotheism, right? That is how he explains the origin of religion. What are the problems in his theory of religion? What problems do you see? Don't you see he is applying so much assumptions, right? It is based on assumptions. Criticisms we are writing. Too many assumptions. इसका थ्योरी ऑफ रिलीजन का, अगर आपसे थ्योरी ऑफ रिलीजन पूछता है तो उसका क्रिटिक भी लिखना पड़ेगा ना, राइट? सेकंड, he is being ethnocentric when he says that savage philosopher. How can you say the early men have limited knowledge, right? So first thing is he had too many assumptions. Second, he was ethnocentric. Right? He was ethnocentric when he says that early man was a savage philosopher. Who had limited knowledge. हाउ कैन यू से सो, चाहे हो ही, बट आपने कह कैसे दिया, राइट? ओके, नेक्स्ट, ही रिलायड ऑन सेकेंडरी डेटा, उसका खुद का कोई फील्ड वर्क तो था नहीं, राइट? ही रिलायड heavily on the secondary data to give this theory. ठीक है, next, he is talking more about the psychological dimension of the religion. He is talking more about the psychological dimension of the religion, whereas religion is social, है ना? रिलीजन तो सोशल ज्यादा है ना, साइकोलॉजिकल की ज्यादा बात कर रहे हैं, ऐसा सोचा हुआ होगा, ऐसे एक्सपीरियंसेस हुए होंगे, दैट इज हाउ, ऐसा हुआ होगा. So he's talking more about the experiences dimension, less about the social dimension, that why people collectively worship, right? So social dimension को ignore करता है. So these are 5 critiques of his theory of religion. Clear? ओके, दोज हु हैव डन रिलीजन, उसमें हमने थोड़ा सा बहुत डिस्कस किया होगा, राइट? थोड़ा और एनरिच हो गया होगा. फॉर दोज हु हैवंट डन, विल टॉक अबाउट दैट अगेन, दोबारा से, ठीक है? सेम ही दोबारा रिपीट हो जाएगा वहां पे. ओके, नाउ व्हाट एल्स? ही इज द फर्स्ट पर्सन, इज द अर्लीस्ट कल्चरलॉजिस्ट who gave a systematic definition of culture. Now, who will tell me? Rajat, you do not need to memorize any of the authors. You will automatically remember. गिने चुने authors हैं हमारे पास, right? And you need to memorize few books, not all of them. जैसे कि Primitive Culture is the most important work, and Tyler को तो भूल ही नहीं सकते हो आप. Tyler is like synonymous to anthropology. Phantom and Life Force I will be explaining just a moment. So life force is what animates your physical being. That means जिसके कारण आप सांस ले रहे हो, जिसके कारण आप ब्रीथ कर पा रहे हो. और फैंटम इसकी मिरर इमेज है. जैसे आप सपने में देखते हो, कभी कभार आप कहीं और चले जाते हो, राइट? दैट मीन्स कभी कभार आप बॉलीवुड में हीरो बन जाते हो, राइट? कभी आप अच्छी पार्टी करने जा रहे हो. दैट इज व्हाट योर फैंटम इज मूविंग हियर एंड देयर. यू आर स्लीपिंग ऑन द सेम बेड. जब मम्मी थप्पड़ मार के उठा देती हैं कि उठ जा बेटा, राइट? जमीन पे आ जाओ. सो बेसिकली यू आर स्लीपिंग ऑन द सेम बेड, बट you are going somewhere else. So you are not going, your phantom was moving somewhere, right? So that is what phantom is. Now he gave the earliest definition of culture, a very famous definition of culture. Who will tell me the definition of culture? Yes. Huh. Huh. Okay, let's write. According to him, culture or civilization taken in its wide ethnographic sense is that complex whole consists of knowledge, belief, art, morals, customs, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by men as a member of society. Right? This is the definition you have to memorize. This is the only definition of culture you should memorize. Knowledge, belief, art, morals, customs, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by men as a member of society. ठीक है? कोशिश करो याद हो जाए. एक बार में नहीं होगा, बार बार में रीड करोगे हो जाएगा. ठीक है? अगर याद ना हो कोई बात नहीं, इसका क्रक्स लिख देना. क्रक्स मीन्स कॉम्प्लेक्स होल, राइट? सेकेंड, इट इज एक्वायर्ड. Complex whole and acquired. These are the two prominent things that are highlighted in this definition. That means culture cannot be attributed to any single thing. It is the complex whole of many things. Second, it is not biologically inherited, it is socially acquired. Okay? These are the two important things. Then, he was the earliest scholar to use statistics in anthropology. Earliest scholar to use statistics in anthropology. Right? In his essay, the method of investigating the development of institutions, he compared 282 societies. He compared 282 societies. Right? Then he defined and developed psychic unity as a tool, right? He defined and developed psychic unity as a tool. Now, what was the function of this tool? Using this tool, he countered the degenerationist scholars, that it is degenerating. He says, no, it is progressing, right? So, in a sense, he was ethnocentric, but in a sense, he was also talking about progress. Right? So, he defined and developed psychic unity as a tool to explain progressive evolution. Then he developed the concept of cultural survivals. Concept of cultural survivals. What are survivals? Any processes or habits or any other material thing, right, which was relevant in the past, right, not have any relevance in today's time, but still present by the force of habit. That is the cultural survival. That belonged to the past. It had a relevance in past. It is present today, although lost its relevance in today's times. Like shaking hand or sneezing. So he developed the concept of survivals. Then he also inspired and influenced the scholars like R. Merritt, Robertson Smith, and James Fraser. Next, he was the first chair of anthropology in the world. Right? He is the father of classical evolutionism. He is the father of classical evolutionism. 10th point. He is the father of right. These are the contributions of Tyler. Anyone have any problem till now? हाँ हाँ वो कहते हैं कि साइकिक यूनिटी नहीं है. डिफ्यूजनेस से साइकिक यूनिटी नहीं है. And that is why they say that man is basically uninventive. वो लोग कह रहे हैं. क्लासिकल इवोल्यूशनिस्ट कुछ और कह रहे हैं, टाइलर कुछ और कह रहा है. कोई और आके जैसे मैं कह देता हूं कि भाई सन इज राइजिंग इन द ईस्ट, या फिर मैं बोल दूं कि नहीं अर्थ इज द सेंटर ऑफ द यूनिवर्स. सपोज आई एम सेइंग सो. Tomorrow somebody say no, sun is the center of universe. Tomorrow somebody else will come and will say this is the center of the universe. Right? Which one is true? We do not know. Right? So basically when you study any thinker, you have to take the scholar what he is trying to say. Right? Whether man is inventive or uninventive, we do not know. But we will take the side कि it is inventive. Right? We can, otherwise आप IAS कैसे बनोगे अगर आप इन्वेंटिव नहीं हो तो. फिर तो आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस ज़्यादा अच्छी है. अगर हम इन्वेंटिव नहीं है तो आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस इज बेटर देन अस. Okay, so that is a debate when we'll come. Don't confuse these people with diffusionism. When it will come, I will take each and every step, right? So any confusion is also there, please do ask. But whenever any theory comes, you don't read, I am saying anything. I'm not saying anything. I'm just a mouthpiece who is just telling you, right? I'm just giving the God's message to you people, right? The God of anthropology, that is Tyler, right? So I'm just transmitting the message of these gods to you people. I'm just a mediator, right? And when you mediate this same, you can say answer to the examiner, don't tell I am writing, right? Or you yourself are writing. You are just passing on the knowledge of these scholars that they have written, right? Nobody is saying anything. जिन्होंने लिख दिया वो लिख दिया, वो जा चुके हैं, उन्हीं का ही आगे जा रहा है अभी. ठीक है? So this is clear till now? Okay. Now let me revise you what we have done today. We have done classical evolutionism. Classical evolutionism is a school of thought that says that everywhere, societies and cultures everywhere evolve in unilinear sequence, unilinear fashion. That is, savage to barbaric to civilized. This school of thought emerged against the ideas of creationism and degenerationism. The classical evolutionists were influenced by the ideas of Enlightenment thinkers like Montesquieu. They were influenced by the ideas of positivism like Auguste Comte and Saint-Simon. They were influenced from the writings of colonial administrators and voyagers. They were influenced from the ideas of Darwinism and social Darwinism. Clear? The school of classical evolutionism have certain basic features. One, gradualism, right? That evolution is a gradual process. Second, it is ceaseless and ubiquitous. Third, it is unilineal. Fourth, there exists psychic unity, and that is why there is parallel evolution. The evolution is progressive and the highest stage is civilization, right? There are cultural survivals that explain that evolution hua hai. These are few features of classical evolution, right? Then we talked about the methods that were used by the evolutionists to justify their claims. The methods were comparative method, they used positivism, they used psychic unity as a tool, they used survival as a tool, right? The accomplishment was the foundation of anthropology as a discipline. Second was they put anthropology on the same pedestal as natural sciences. They were criticized on many accounts by many scholars including Franz Boas, Malinowski, Radcliffe Brown, Westermarck and Diffusionists and many other scholars. Clear? Okay. Now what were the criticisms? So Franz Boas criticized evolutionists on many accounts, right? One, use of secondary data, use of comparative method, then being ethnocentric. What else? Assumptions or conjecture, right? Then diffusionists and Boas criticize them for ignoring diffusion as an important process of cultural change. Westermarck says monogamy is found in simple societies. Then Radcliffe Brown also observed the monogamy among Ongees, and then finally we had discussed Malinowski says survival is a myth created by Tyler, right? Professor Tyler. Okay, these are few critiques, but the school of evolutionism was revived later on by neo-evolutionists. Simply, yes, it has some deficiencies, but the ideas are still relevant, so it was revived, right? Now we are talking about Tyler. Tyler is a British anthropologist, right? And Tyler was Quaker by birth. By birth in the sense, but उनके माता पिता क्वेकर थे तो वो भी पैदा होते ही क्वेकर बन गया, right? So was Quaker, so that is why he could not get admission into the Oxford or Cambridge, because there he had to sign the 39 articles of faith, and he did not want to. He was a jiddi child, right? So he joined his father's brass factory. There he worked for a few years and then he fell sick. He was sent on a luxury travel to southern USA and Latin American countries, where he met Henry Christie. Henry Christie was a amateur archaeologist who was going to oversee the excavation of Perigordian caves in Mexico. He accompanied him, right? And there he saw that culture change, and with change there is evolution, there is progress, there is refinement in the cultural materials, right? There he developed the idea, and he basically also saw the Society of Mexico, and he compiled the observations and his, you can say, the notices that he see, that whatever he noticed, so he compiled them in the book Anahuac, right? Mexico and Mexicans, Ancient and Modern. Later on, he wrote another book, Researches in Early History of the Mankind, right? Later on, he wrote the book Primitive culture. Primitive culture gave him worldwide fame. All right, he was elected as a royal fellow. He was basically given a membership to the British Society of Advancement of Sciences. Right. Then he started writing notes and queries. Then he was given an honorary doctorate. Then he basically wrote a book Anthropology. Then he was made a keeper of University Museum in 1883. Then he was made a reader. He was the first chair to hold in Anthropology in 1884. And after that, what happened? After that, 1889, he wrote that status 6 wala, right? Comparison of institutions, right? Then he retired in 1909, 1912, he was knighted, right? This is what the basic contribution of his contributions involve evolution of culture. Number one, savage, barbaric, civilized. Evolution of social institutions of society, matrilineal to patrilineal. Evolution of religion, animism, polytheism, and monotheism. He talked about the first definition, earliest definition of culture, that is, culture is that complex all that include knowledge, belief, art, morals, customs, any other capability or habit acquired by man as a member of society, right? Then what else? Statistics, psychic unity, survivals, what else? हाँ, culturologist तो definition के साथ ले लिया हमने. What else? Father of classical evolutionism, first chair to hold, right? He inspired the scholars like Merritt and others, right? So Merritt जो है R.R. Merritt, R.R. Merritt was the disciple of this, right? And he says that the earliest religion is not animism, rather it is animatism. R.R. Merritt इसका सिर्फ एक ही बात है जो हमें भी याद रखनी है, अगर याद रखना पड़ा तो, राइट? दिस इज ऑल्सो evolutionist. You just remember his one line. We are not interested in his lifeline or you can say his timeline कि क्या किया क्या नहीं किया. इन्होंने एक अच्छी बुक लिख दी बस लाइफ में, राइट? दो तीन काम क्या किया. एक तो इन्होंने टाइलर को पढ़ा, दैट इज अ बिग डील, right? Studying Tyler. See, Tyler was that influential that at that time, whatever Tyler used to say, so people used to say that Mr. Tyler's science. Anthropology was known as Mr. Tyler's science. The Tyler was so important person at that time. Anthropology was Mr. Tyler's science. He was so articulate. He was so influential in his writings and oratory that people started believing whatever he says true. Right? So some critics, you can say jokingly say that anthropology is Mr. Tyler's science. Right? So Merritt studied him. Merritt was a disciple of him. He studied his ideas and he wrote a book, The Threshold of Religion. In this book, what Merritt says that animism, not animism, rather animatism is the earliest form of religion, because the early men could not distinguish between natural and supernatural world. ये उससे भी ज्यादा एथनोसेंट्रिक है, right? This world and that world, right? But he have a sense of awe, surprise, and fear towards the okay natural phenomena. मना आ गया था, right? We are talking about mana, so mana आ गया था. अभी there was a fly, so the fly was not allowing me to write, right? So there was something supernatural, but he is not talking about supernatural. He is talking about natural things, right? So towards the natural phenomena such as lightning, thunder, etc. Right? ठीक है. सो ये हो सकता है और इसीलिए दे माइट हैव बिलीव्ड इन द पावर कंटेन्ड इन दीज नेचुरल फिनोमिना. They might have started believing the power contained in these natural phenomena. ठीक है. So that is animatism. Chainkuliki mankuli, right? In that bat of that child possess this natural power, mana, or you can say mana. ठीक है. Mana is that natural power that is possessed in that bat. It may be some kind of magical power, mystical power. Totemism is different here. नहीं, सब चीजें सेम नहीं है, थोड़ा थोड़ा सा डिफरेंस है सभी में. टोटेमिज्म में थोड़ा सा डिफरेंस है, ठीक है. टोटेमिज्म में और एनिमिज्म में भी थोड़ा सा डिफरेंस है. एनिमेटिज्म में भी थोड़ा सा ही डिफरेंस है. नेचुरिज्म में भी थोड़ा सा ही डिफरेंस है. वो सब बात दोबारा आ जाएगी, कोई बात नहीं, है ना. किसी न किसी टाइम पे वो सब बातें आ जाएंगी. ओके, डन. आर मैरिट. सो इतना ही याद रखना है मैरिट को. मैरिट को भूल भी जाओगे तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. But don't forget Tyler. Tyler is the most important scholar and we have done only Tyler today. Right? So do read about Tyler, and if someone asks you to write a short note on unilinear evolution, so I have given you the write-up for this. If someone asks you to write the 19th century evolutionism, you can write that. Same ही question होगा, right? 19th century evolutionist or evolutionism. If someone say classical evolutionism, that is the same question, right? So the same question can be seen as 19th century evolutionism. राइट, इसको भी इवोल्यूशनिज्म कर देते हैं. और क्लासिकल इवोल्यूशनिज्म. If someone asks you to write another question, the contributions of Tyler, now I have given you too much about his biography. इतना जरूरत नहीं है. Simply दो लाइनें sufficient रहेंगी. That he was a British anthropologist and the father of classical evolutionism and the first chair in anthropology. That is it. These two lines will be sufficient. Why I am giving you his background? Because if you know about someone for at least 10 minutes, you are listening to about him, so at least you remember his name. Right? That is my focus, right? If you don't, see, I just spoke about him just for a minute, you will forget about him. So, this is how our brain functions, right? Okay, so contributions of Tyler, you may write Tyler and theory of religion. I think you can write Tyler gave his theory of religion in his book Primitive Culture. According to him, the earliest form of religion was animism, which evolved into polytheism and monotheism. Right? Explanation is like this. This theory is criticized on these grounds. Simple it is. Yes, 10 mark. All the 3 questions are 10 marker. Right? I think these 3 questions you can easily handle. Right? And such questions has been asked in the past. Right? The question has been asked, the unilineal evolution, once it has been asked. Right? Theory of religion, yes, theory of religion has been asked. ये तो simply मैंने जो लिखवाया है पूरा का पूरा आंसर ही है आपको. पूरा उसको देख लेना कि 2 पेज में आ रहा है कि नहीं आ रहा. If it is not coming, cut down on some things, right? Maybe you can merge the points. If there are 6-7 points or 10 points are there, merge the points into 4-5s, right? That is what you have to do, right? So these 3 questions you can easily handle. Rest we'll talk about them tomorrow. ठीक है? Thank you. All the very best. And I must appreciate your patience till 9. Right? Good. आज 9 बजे से पहले छोड़ रहे हैं वैसे हम. चलो, thank you. All the best.